North Road made this.
Good, everybody. Welcome back to Games with BK. This is episode number 1 of a Dynasty Mode series that I'm going to do called the Clay Brown Sr. Dynasty Mode series. Before I take a look forward, I got to go back to the PlayStation 2 era, maybe 2004, 2005, so like 20 years ago. Around that time, I was playing a different EA sports title, either the NCAA football 2004 or 05, can't remember exactly which one it was. But I was using my beloved Syracuse Orange the way that I always do in the Dynasty mode. But in Dynasty mode, you can get fired. If you don't live up to whatever the standards are for your program, you're going to be finding, you're going to be looking for a new program. And that's what ended up happening. I ended up having to take over the San Jose State Spartans, bottom feeder program at the time in real life. Not a very successful program at all. And in the game, they were equally pretty bad. You didn't have a whole lot of top level talent on the team in terms of the player ratings. And I was trying to build that program up from scratch. And I tried to recruit as best as I could. In that first draft class that I had a couple of players that stood out. Like 20 years later, I still remember these players. I had Eddie Wright, who was an undersized running back. I think he was like maybe 5'8", 5'9", somewhere in that range, maybe 160, 170 pounds. Good agility, pretty decent speed, but he had like I think low carry skill, low break tackle, a bunch of other categories that made him like a 2-star recruit and maybe low 60s rating in terms of the overalls. But I used him like the poor man's Reggie Bush, the jersey number 5. Used him on kick returns, try to throw the ball to him, try to run the ball with him. And around that same time, Reggie Bush was killing it at USC. So that was a natural comparison for me. I had the poor man's Reggie Bush. But the star of the draft class, or the recruiting class, for me, I was a running back by the name of Clay Brown. He's like 5'10", 198 or 200 pounds, a 3-star recruit. I want to say his initial rating was like 68 overall, which is pretty good, I think, considering the fact that he's like a 3-star at San Jose State. But I recruited him. My lead back, jersey number 26, to make him, kind of inspired by Clinton Portis in that way. Gave him the dark tinted visors with like the little armbands to take influence and draw influence from LaDainian Tomlinson. Some people call him LT, but as a New York Giants fan of a certain age, there's only one LT. But I utilized him in that all-around running back role, where I could throw passes to him and run him out of the backfield. He's my top weapon, and he was one of my favorite players to use throughout my time playing the college football game during that time period, either the 04 or 05, like I said. Don't remember exactly which one. So I decided that I wanted to kind of keep this thing going, like keep that character going by transporting that character like 20 years into the future. So now we got Clay Brown Sr. So, the implication is that he is going to have a son, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But Clay Brown Sr. is 20 years removed from his freshman year at San Jose State. He's now breaking into the coaching profession. He got his son, Clay Brown Jr., that's a running back prospect that I'm going to do a Road to Glory series on. But Clay Brown Sr. is a guy who, again, 20 years later, breaking into the coaching business, coaching at Grambling, which you're going to see on the screen coming up soon. And my mission is to try to turn Clay Brown into a successful head coach, maybe move on to a different program, but I want to make him a successful head coach, whether that be with Grambling State or with another program based on how successful I can be. So now We're into the story. You're seeing a lot of stuff in the background as I do this voiceover with the team selection. I ended up using the Team Builder website to try to add some teams, and I'll get into that a little bit later on too. But when you pick the Dynasty, you can be a head coach, offensive coordinator, or a defensive coordinator. Me, I want to control the entire program. I want to be the head coach. There are other people who might just want to play one side of the ball, which I get. And you might want to be the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator. But I want total control of the program, and that's why I chose to be the head coach. You can also choose to be what type, the archetype. You saw that kind of flash quickly on the screen. The recruiter, the tactician, motivator. I chose the recruiter because I figured that's the best way to get the talent, because each of those archetypes have their strengths and weaknesses. And I just feel like the best path for me with this Clay Brown senior character is to try to be the recruiter and get the talent in the in-house. If I can get the talent to Grambling State, I could probably do some damage, win some games, and make Coach Clay Brown Sr. a successful head coach. Now you see in the background now the character creation screens. You choose everything from the name down to the preferred playbook to the alma mater to their preferred pipeline, which I think has an impact on how well you recruit. Now, I don't know what the adaptive AI means, but I think I moved it to aggressive. You're going to see that in a moment. The no huddle style, the offensive aggressiveness, the defensive aggressiveness. You can choose the character's appearance, which you're going to see shortly. And oddly enough, with the appearance of this player, and it was totally unintentional. The player's appearance almost kind of looks like my brother, my younger brother. I only have one brother, but he's younger than me by 4 years. And oddly enough, he, in theory, he would be the same age as a Clay Brown. That was totally coincidental, but I felt like that was something worth pointing out. But back to the Clay Brown stuff, while we're going through these creation screens, I tried to add a bunch of team builder teams, mainly FCS schools, HBCU schools from the FCS level. And I came across a little problem that I had to rectify a little bit later on. And that's when you bring in these team builder schools, you're going to notice that a lot of the names are the same as we look at the other screens there. And because the names are the same, because I think you have like certain templates you have to work off of, I had to go back and manually edit the team rosters for everybody. So that took a little time. As you look through the screens where I show you the Sun Belt Conference, where I put the team builder teams. I think I added 15 teams. It was 15 team builder teams to Jacksonville State in that conference. And I split up the conference in two. So now you see the coach ability screen where you can see the different abilities. I think you can add XP points to these different categories, and they have a strong impact on how you're able to recruit. You can do the same thing for your coordinators as well, I believe, and it can help with recruiting certain positions. And I'm hoping to make use of that because as of this recording, I still haven't dug too deep into the game, so I'm still learning a lot of this stuff. And I'm basing a lot of stuff off of YouTube videos too. But yeah, when you pick your coordinators, because you can hire and fire them, you want to have people who balance out you. You want to have people who might be stronger in the categories that you're not strong in. Now we're going to take a quick look at some of these recruiting screens. And recruiting is way different in College Football 25 as it's compared to the older NCAA football games that I'm more familiar with. So looking at my strategy back in the old days, I was Syracuse for the most part, and they were reasonably rated in terms of prestige, and you can attract some decent talents. When I was San Jose State, it was a little bit different. But in this game, you got to think about not only the pipeline stuff and the prestige of your school, you got to worry about deal breakers for certain players. Players on your team can opt to transfer out and leave based on their criteria from the deal breakers not being met. Now with these recruits, you're going to see them on your screen. You're going to see some of them have deal breakers. If your school and your coach doesn't have the types of things that meet what the player is looking for, they're not going to consider you. Or if they were considering you and for whatever reason something falls off, then they're not going to have the same level of interest. So a lot of things you got to really be mindful of when you recruit. Now, as far as me recruiting with this current team, the Grambling State Tigers, I was just trying to get talent. I was looking at the highest possible rated talent that would be interested in my program, like initially, and then I kind of worked my way down to maybe like the pipelines. And I'm not sure if that's a good strategy, because I was looking at some of the YouTube videos since starting this dynasty, and they were kind of explaining how to get better players. But I'm going to try to experiment and see what works best for me. And I might integrate some of the strategies that I've learned or that I've seen posted online. But I'm going to try to see if I can land like 2 genuine 4-star recruits. Because I feel like if I do that, especially at important positions like maybe quarterback or definitely offensive line, that I have a better chance to win some of these games that I'm going to be playing. So after you set up your prospect board, which you can max out at like 35 recruits, you go through these screens where you can choose to offer scholarships, you can choose to scout, you can recruit them by using certain activities, and that's what you're seeing me kind of speed through here with the I guess time-lapsed recording. And since I haven't gotten that deep into this game yet, into the dynasty mode yet, this version of it, I don't know what works and what doesn't work. But I'm definitely going to be trying to get me those 4-star talents, as I said. But now with the scouting, the more you scout, the more pieces of information that you get from these players. And with that information, you can find out if they're a gem or not. I don't know if that has popped up on the screen yet, but if you see like the green little gem on the screen after you fully scout the player, it basically shows that the player is better than what their star rating might indicate. And if you see like the little X, that means the player is not as good as what their initial star rating might be. So that's another thing that I have to take into account. So maybe a 3-star recruit that I might have on my target list, if he's a gem, he'll play a little better. So that can make up for maybe missing out on a player. So I'm going to try my best to be selective as I proceed through the coming, I guess, seasons of Dynasty, however long I try to drag this out, and see what kind of gems I can recruit, because that's like finding hidden talent. You see the green jewels, gems, once again, the red X through a gem, not a gem. And just, I guess I got to be mindful of what larger programs are out there to try to take over a player or recruit a player that I'm actually trying to get. I think that we're going to be finishing up with the recruiting stuff. I'm going to close out by just doing a little rundown of what's going to happen next. We got episode 2 coming. That's the game against Jackson State. Not sure if I'm going to do voiceover for it, kind of 50-50 with it. We got 2.5, which is going to be the Grambling State rundown of the roster. And then you got 2.75, the recruiting. And then we're going to lead into episode number 3, which is game number 2 versus North Carolina A&T. I know the numbers are kind of weird at this point, but it's going to get back to normal after episode 3. From there, we're just going to do game and recruiting, that kind of alternating path. But in the meantime, I want to say thank you for taking the time out to watch this Dynasty. Continue to follow me. And I want to close out by having you take a quick look at this little fake ad that I made for Coach Clay Brown and Clay Sounds headphones.